Welcome to the latest addition to the Compliance Podcast Network, the podcast 10 for 10, which brings you the week's top 10 compliance stories curated together in one podcast each week. Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, brings you the compliance professional stories you need to be aware of at the end of your busy week. Sit back and in 10 minutes, hear about the stories every compliance professional should be aware of. Every Saturday, 10 for 10 highlights the most important news, insights, and analysis for the compliance professional, all curated by the voice of compliance, Tom Fox. Get your weekly filling of compliance stories with 10 for 10. Hosted by Tom Fox. 10 for 10 is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. First, a word from the sponsor of the Compliance Podcast Network for this month, Ethico.
In the intricate world of ethics and compliance, each second is precious, and slow case closures are more than just delays, they're missed opportunities. Enter Ethico. Our solution revolutionizes case management, cutting closure times in half and turning every challenge into a chance for improvement. Imagine a workspace where efficiency and compliance coexist harmoniously. Don't just dream of faster resolutions, make it your reality. Visit ethico.com/CPN today to book a demo and dive into our exclusive white paper by Tom Fox, the ROI of compliance, and to try our free ROI calculator. Empower your team with the tools they deserve.
The 10 for 10 for the week ending July 20, 2024. We begin with a story from the Washington Post that the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee found that Amazon workers are likely to get injured during Prime Week, both in the summer and in the holiday season. Indeed, 45 of 100 employees in 2019 got injured. Think about the probability of injury in the NFL. They get paid a whole lot more than Amazon Prime employees. So next up in our continuing series on banks behaving badly, the Financial Times reported that Deutsche Bank flouted international accounting rules. In 2019, the bank's financial report did not meet international accounting standards because it lacked key details about the lender's historic losses, said the German financial watchdog BaFin. BaFin said the bank failed to disclose that in 2019 there were 2 billion euros of deferred tax assets, which were actually losses in the United States. And Deutsche Bank failed to explain how it expected to generate future profits, and the reason, a legally required disclosure. Oops. Next up, in the if you throw your wife under the bus and claim she is engaged in bribery and corruption, it doesn't always work, as Senator Robert Menendez was found guilty and convicted of peddling his office's power in exchange for gold bars, cash, and convertibles. If I didn't say it, this article comes from the Wall Street Journal. Federal prosecutors charged him with pocketing bribes. This is the gold bars case. So if you get gold bars and you say it's because of your greedy wife, watch out. Next up from Bloomberg, Carlos Watson and Aussie Media was found guilty of defrauding investors in a case featuring allegation that Watson coached a co-founder to impersonate a YouTube executive to get a Goldman Sachs banker to back the media startup. Whether it was out of desperation, whether it was out of insanity, whether it was out of just pure greed, maybe it was just fraud. But the company and Watson were convicted of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and securities fraud, and he was also convicted of aggravated identity theft. He faces 37 years in prison, although I'm sure it will be much less, and sentencing is set for November 18th. Finally, from ABC News, reports that the mayor of Venice is under investigation in a corruption scandal that has landed some of his top public works officials in jail for alleged system of kickbacks in return for granting favors to developers. The mayor, along with 2 aides, is under investigation for agreeing to approve a residential and commercial project by a Singapore developer in exchange for 164 million euros. Yep, that's a hell of a bribe. The development was stated and now The investigators are looking to a wider variety of corruption in Venice. Corruption in Italy, I know you're shocked. Corruption in Venice, double shocked. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Dylan Tokar reporting that a former Goldman Sachs banker appeared in federal court after being extradited from the United Kingdom regarding allegations he bribed a Ghana government official to secure a lucrative power plant contract for a client. Asante Berko, a dual citizen of the U.S. and Ghana, came after fighting his extradition from the United Kingdom, where he worked at Goldman's London subsidiary. He was terminated by Goldman and has previously agreed to a settlement with the SEC, where he arranged $4.5 million in bribe to Ghanaian officials. The purpose was to help a Turkish energy company win a power plant contract, which they did. Now Berko is accused of violating the FCPA and will stand trial in the United States. Next up, Binance compliance official Tigran Gambayaran is still in custody in Nigeria, as although they previously agreed to release him, they have now backed off on that and said that he will not be, his adjournment will not be discussed in court until October. He's being held in an extortion attempt by the country of Nigeria. So if you're in a situation with Nigeria, you need to think long and hard about going over there, because they're clearly going to violate people's civil rights and jail them for absolutely no reason. Next up, in a huge case, SolarWinds defeated most of the SEC's data breach claim as the case was thrown out of federal court. The court, in a 107-page decision, said that the accounting requirements under the SEC is simply that, an system internal accounting controls rather than a company's financial accounting. So this is a pretty devastating defeat for the SEC. They've been obviously trying to broaden out accounting controls to talk about a wide variety of other corporate actions. Now, it didn't throw out the case, interestingly enough, where SolarWinds and their CISO made very disparate claims in their corporate filings about the company's cybersecurity, when there were questions and indeed commentary within the company that it was not as it was publicly reported. And so this is going to be interesting to see whether or not, how far the SEC will take this, given that the rest of their case got thrown out. I'm sure they will vigorously prosecute this, but it does give a very important reminder to companies that if you make statements on your public record that you are a very secure company and internally you're saying we are crap, it's going to be a problem. Next up, another Trump acolyte, this time self-exiled Chinese businessman Guo Wengui, has been convicted in a U.S. court of defrauding online followers in a $1 billion scam. Well, if that doesn't sound like Donald Trump, I don't know what does. He was a critic of the Communist Party and an associate of Steve Bannon, and he went by lots of aliases, and he just took people's money. And our final story comes to us from the Financial Times, which reports that a Sagante Capital Management employee who engaged in, quote, disreputable conduct, in quote, at least according to the SEC, is trying to get his bonus for engaging in same conduct. And we'll see how that goes. This is Tom Fox again. I hope you have a great weekend, and we look forward to bringing you 10 for 10 next week as well. Have you ever wondered how to show the ROI of your compliance program? Have you struggled with the budgeting process, getting the funds you want for your compliance program? Well, I've partnered with Ethico to put together a white paper on the ROI of compliance, which shows you not only how to demonstrate ROI, but also how to speak finance when you're sitting across from the CFO with your budget proposals. Check out the website and get the white paper. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of 10 for 10. I hope you'll check out the newest podcast in the Compliance Podcast Network, the Compliance Tip of the Day. In Compliance Tip of the Day, I give a 5 to 8 minute summary of one tip that you can integrate into your compliance program or put together for greater compliance program efficiency.